Welcome to my Zelda list. Now this is from a collector's and a lifelong Zelda fan's standpoint. I'm going to go from all the Zeldas from my least favourite to my favourite. Now this was very difficult because I love them all. But without further ado, let's get to it. Number 18. Zelda 2, Adventures of Link. Now this is my least favourite game in the series. I played through it just to beat it, and I'll probably never play it again. Nintendo changed up the gameplay from the traditional Zelda mechanics. For this reason, I found myself not really enjoying it, although for this exact same reason, it's some people's favourite. It's just different strokes for different folks, I guess. But apart from the change up, the difficulty level is far too high. It makes it feel like a slog. But on the plus side, the temple music is an absolute banger. Number 17, Triforce Heroes. I'm gonna be honest with you, there's not a lot I like about this title. I don't like the costumes that Link wears and that you can change. Some of them just seem goofy. And again, I really don't like the departure from the original gameplay. I can see what they were going for, but I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a loner and I like playing them on my own. It just didn't really glue with me. I imagine if you had two other people that were really into Zelda, it could be a lot of fun. But like I said, I played through it on my own and it was just, I don't know, it felt like a cash grab, to be honest. Number 16, Spirit Tracks. Now I really quite like this game. I mean, there was a few things that really drove me up the wall. But apart from that, it's quite a good game. It felt like a nice departure, no pun intended, from the normal horseback exploration. But the thing that really brings it down for me is the spirit flute. My God, was this frustrating. I can see the idea that Nintendo was trying to accomplish, but the execution just was very undesirable. Plus, if your DS mic is slightly dirty, it makes it impossible to play. You just end up blowing spit onto your DS screen. Number 15. Four Swords Adventure. A multiplayer Zelda game sounds great, but the reality was much different. The story of this game is very hard to remember. Nothing really stood out. Apart from the fact that it was multiplayer, there was nothing really that made this game its own thing. Plus, the patience you would need to set this up, you would need a Game Boy Advance, and you would need to connect that to one of your friend's GameCubes. It was too much faff. I think most people ended up giving up, although when it did work, you felt like you were in the future. Number 14, Skyward Sword. Coming off the shoulders of giants, this game had a lot to live up to. As the game before it was Twilight Princess, and this did so many things right. Although Skyward Sword in its own right is very revolutionary, as it was the first to introduce the stamina bar, which is now a staple in most of the 3D Zeldas. But I believe the main problem with the game was the overabundance of the motion controls. It deterred some players, and I kind of wish that people would give it more of a go, because it is good. Although I don't like the fact you keep returning to the same dungeons. You get very bored of the scenery very quick. But apart from that, it's a good little title. Number 13, A Link Between Worlds. A very clever way of revisiting an old classic. This game brings a new life to the old Link to the Past map that we all know and love, with a few slight changes to make it feel new. Plus, I really love the story, and the mechanics are awesome. The way you can walk along the walls and turn into a painting. I think it's very clever and it's a lot of fun. Although, if I'm nitpicking, I wish it was a little bit more of a challenge. I found myself just blasting through it with not a lot of pushback. But what a great title. Number 12, Phantom Hourglass. I feel like this is a bit of a hidden gem, as nobody really talks about it. I think mainly because it was on the DS, so a lot of people passed it up. Plus, I've heard a lot of people moan about the timed main dungeon that you keep going back to. They say it's frustrating. Although, I found it quite enjoyable. It felt like a little bit of pressure was added, so you were worrying about every move you made. But it's awesome. The game starts where the Wind Waker finished, and although it's a separate story, it feels fun to converse over the Wind Waker world once again. It's definitely worth a playthrough. Number 11. Oracle of Seasons/Ages. Now I know these are two separate titles, but I'm including them as one, because it feels very similar to how Pokemon Red and Blue are different titles, but at the core they are the same. I mean, with Seasons and Ages, they do have different stories, but the gameplay and the items are near on the same. They're a lot of fun though, to be fair. They both offer a lot of enjoyment and they're great top-down Zelda games. If I would have to choose one, I would probably say Seasons is my preferred one because I love the mechanic of changing the seasons. But yeah, they're definitely worth a playthrough. Very underrated in my opinion. Number 10. Link's Awakening. Originally released for the Game Boy, and then released again for the Game Boy Color, and then again for the Switch, what you're seeing is the Switch remake. And the reason is because the remake is true to its core. It's just got a graphical upgrade. But honestly, this game is fantastic. In my opinion, it's probably the best title for a beginner to jump into, especially if you want to play the original kind of top-down Zelda games. This is a great one to start into because it's not too difficult and there's so much enjoyment to be had. Honestly, I could replay this every year. Number 9. Majora's Mask. Iconically macabre and far too dark for a child's game. This title scared the ever-living shit out of me as a child, but I think that's why I love it. It's using Ocarina of Time's masterpiece of a game engine, and to cut down development time, the game sees you keep replaying time over and over again. But I find this is what makes the game very stressful. And I think overall it takes away from the Zelda experience, i.e. exploring at your own pace. It makes you rush around like a blue horse fly, making sure you don't run out of time. But some people hold this game so dear, and I completely see why. The aesthetic is just gorgeous, and the darkness is unparalleled. There's a certain doom and gloom that this game makes you feel. Oh, it's awesome. Number 8. The Legend of Zelda. This is just a straight OG that started it all. And what it lacks in story, it definitely makes up for in exploration, as you find in yourself searching every nook and cranny. But be warned, it was made to be played with an instruction manual. And if you're lacking this, while it's still very achievable, it does pose some difficulties. I think it's time this game is remade in gorgeous HD graphics. Oh, I'd love that. Number 7. Minish Cap. This game is great. It's like Zelda crossed with the Borrowers. But don't let the name fool you. This game is far from small, with 2 overworlds to explore, one being Link size and one being tiny. There is so much fun to be had here. In my opinion, it is the most underrated Zelda title of all time. I absolutely adore this game. Everything about it is just amazing, and I don't know how they would do it, but I almost wish they would just revisit it somehow, a Minish Cap 2 or just anything in that world. I love it. It's got so much love and attention poured into it. It's gorgeous. Number 6. Twilight Princess. Gorgeously dark with an amazing story to match. What an incredible game this really is. Whether you're slicing up enemies or you're running around as a wolf, this title has you covered. It's the first in the series to introduce motion controls, and when they work, you really feel like you're Link. But when the novelties wear off, you revert back to just being a chubby kid sat on your sofa, swinging a white controller manically. What a load of fun this is. Number 5. Tears of the Kingdom. Now this game is a masterpiece. But if I'm being fair, it's just Breath of the Wild on steroids, which was already a masterpiece. But the way this game differentiates itself is by adding new dimensions to the world, such as the sky and the depths. Although I did find the depths a bit drab, to be honest, and a little bit samey. And the story got a little bit wild too, adding in new races and all sorts. But it's definitely worth a play, and there's hours of content to be enjoyed. There's so much pleasure just flying around. Oh, it's wicked. Number 4, The Wind Waker. This title popularised toonish animation. It seems like every game that came out after this was influenced in some way or another. Now, when it came out to very little fanfare, as the true Zelda fans felt it was a little bit kiddish compared to the darker instalment of Twilight Princess. But over time, it became a fan favourite, and quite rightly so. It is such a great game. The soundtrack is awesome, and I love just sailing around the sea. It gives me so much enjoyment. I really, really dig this game. Number 3, A Link to the Past. In my opinion, this is the best aging game of all time. There are points where you play it and you think, how did this come out in 1991? It looks like it was released yesterday and it's just using an old school art style. It's so much fun, this game, I tell you. The replayability, I literally play it once a year. I'm not even kidding. It's almost like a comfort blanket. When life gets hard, you just chuck on A Link to the Past and get lost. The story is ace. The dark world where you're a little rabbit is just so gorgeous and it's got so much charisma. It's amazing. Number 2, Ocarina of Time. A generation's childhood. The nostalgia this game brings is almost overwhelming. This paired with one of the most memorable and influential soundtracks makes for a pure masterpiece. There's not a lot to be said about this game that hasn't already been said. It is pure genius. There is a reason it is the highest rated game of all time on IGN. This game is the complete reason I have a lifelong affinity for The Legend of Zelda. The memories of my childhood sat cross-legged in front of a CTR screen, plugging in hours of time on this game. Oh, my life would be completely different without this title. It is a pure gem. And here it is, number 1, Breath of the Wild. This to me is just pure peace. The relaxation this game gives me is second to none. The soundtrack is so subtle, but yet so beautiful. Quite frankly, this is the best game I have ever played. And I'm not just talking about Zelda games here. I'm talking about games in general. Everything about it is so perfectly executed. To the landscapes, to the feeling of the characters, to the weapons. It brings a feeling that the first Zelda captured, but in a modern day light. Plus, I really owe this game a lot, because for me it came out in a time when I really needed it. And quite frankly, it saved my life. It changed my life completely. It was like my life was in darkness and I played this game and my whole light turned to colour. It is a masterpiece and I think everyone and their dog should play it. If you haven't already played it, turn this video off right now and get on it. You will not regret it. It is a pure masterpiece. Well, that was my list of all the Zeldas. Remember, I love these games, so I'm not trying to trash on any of them. To me, they're all amazing. I hope your list is very different to mine, because that's what makes the world so much more interesting. I hope you enjoyed, and if not, I'm sure this video will cheer you up.